Welcome to the Ultra Origins series, where we hear from runners who have recently finished their first ultra, completed a new distance, or showed up despite tremendous challenge. In these conversations, we celebrate regular people who are doing hard things. There's a lot we can learn from and be inspired by from people just like you. In this episode, we meet Antonia Timmer, who attempted the Tahoe 200 this spring. Antonia's journey into ultra running began under the most challenging of circumstances, a stage 4 melanoma diagnosis. Her doctor recommended walking as a way to cope with the fatigue caused by chemotherapy, and over time Antonia started running and then increased her distance to eventually training for and running ultramarathons, all in between her chemotherapy sessions. Antonia, it is so great to have you here on Ultra Origins. We got to know each other a little bit through some of the comments on the YouTube channel, because I know you had asked me about using a camera during your Tahoe journey that you were preparing for, and then you left an incredible comment, which let me know a little bit even more about your journey coming into running through chemotherapy and your doctor. And so I was really excited that you were able to join us. I think we're going to be able to learn some incredible ideas about strength and resilience from your story. And so I'm really happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about you and where you're from, and then we can get into your journey and how you got started into this thing.
Well, I'm originally from the Netherlands. I moved here in 2006 with my two teenage daughters and husband at the time. I was never a runner or any sports activity person. The Netherlands is also a country where we don't have the sports in school like American schools have. So if you want to do sports, you have to do it on your own. So that really wasn't a thing when I was a child. And when I came to the United States in 2006, in 2014, I got diagnosed with melanoma cancer, which is a form of skin cancer, and mine was a really rare form of it. And of course, you go to the whole thing of chemotherapy and another chemotherapy. And at a certain point, I had to look it up when it exactly was. In 2017, I was complaining to my doctor that my fatigue was so bad. I was so tired. My bones, my muscles, everything hurts. And I basically couldn't function for a week after the treatment, which was every 4 weeks. And he told me, well, go walking. And my first reaction was, I don't know what you've been smoking, but I work 50 hours a week. I commute 3 hours a day. I have a household with still one teenage daughter home. I spend 10 hours a week in a hospital. Where do you think I find time to go walking every day? So, never mind, I don't have the energy to do that. I come home and I just want to crash. But, I didn't want to be too big of a pain, and I started doing it. And I went from half a mile to a mile, just walking. And running was never on my mind. It went a mile, it went 2 mile, I discovered all kinds of nice walks, semi-trail in my area where I lived, in the Cooperstown, New York area. And it started taking up a lot of time. So I'm like, Mom, maybe I should walk a little faster or run a little bit. And that's how that started. And I started doing some online app, Couch to 5K or something like that, it was called. And that was actually fun, you see the progress that you're making. And I noticed that it really helped. I felt better. If I didn't go for a walk or I didn't move, I sat on the couch. If I don't feel good, I definitely don't feel good the next day after it. So it definitely made me feel better. And that was my motivation to keep doing it.
Right.
So yeah, that went from a 5K to a 10K to a half marathon all on my own. And then in 2020, I decided to sign up for the local town, Cooperstown, Run Around the Lake, which is a marathon.
Okay.
Yeah, we all know what happened in 2020. They got
Yeah.
canceled. So I was kind of bummed about that. I'm like, yeah, okay, my luck. And a couple months later, I ran around that lake basically every week, which was kind of a 21-mile, the closest run around it. They extended 5 miles to make it a marathon. So in September of 2017, I just did it on my own.
I'm
No,
sorry, September. This is September of 2020.
yes, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So I just did it on my own. The only supporters I had was my kids that I texted constantly, like 17 miles, 18 miles, 20 miles. And they were just, oh, come on, Mom, let's go, let's go. So I finished that. So that was my first unofficial marathon.
All on your own, with just the support of your
With a
family through your
vest and,
texting. Good.
and a bag of water. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
wasn't really a technical ultra runner with all the boo. I had shoes and a vest and a
Right.
bladder. That was basically it. And maybe a headphone. And then I signed up for a 50K, the Cayuga, here in New York. And did not know that that was a total trail run on one of the difficult courses in
Oh.
I don't know where. Had no idea. It just sounded beautiful on the screen on ultrasound.
Okay.
I figured, why not? And I attempted it. I DNF'd at 25 miles with my IT band screaming at me from all the downhill and the 6,000 steps that are in there. Because I got late in signing up for that race and I was on the waiting list first, I signed up for a second 50K a month later. And that was the Sharp 50K in Pennsylvania. And I actually did that one too, and I finished that one. So that was my first official race
Okay.
finish.
And that was in 2021 in June. Is that right?
Well, yes, that was
Yeah.
June, July.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And then I went to October of that year, I did a 50 miler in
Okay.
upstate New York, Can Lake, Canadawago Lake, very difficult name. And I finished that one too. So now I'm kind of having that bug of all these races. I did Cayuga again in 22, DNF'd it again at the same 25 miles. I did it again last year, which was the first year I actually finished it.
Oh, okay. Third time's the charm.
Yes, exactly. And last year I did also a 100K and a Chicago Marathon. And I did that for the Ronald McDonald House. And then this year I did, no, last year, September, I attempted a 100 miler, my first 100 miler, which I also DNF'd. I also seem to DNF every first race. And I was very intrigued by Tahoe for years, for the last two years.
Hmm.
A friend of mine who has a podcast, she did it in 22. And I saw these pictures and Instagram. And then I started Googling it, and I saw your video was a very important one because that's such a great video of the actual course. And of course, the course is different now because 22
Right.
was, I think you did it in 22. Am I right?
That's right. We had an out and back similar to yours, but it was we had a different starting and end
Yeah, you
point.
went from
So
Homeland to Heavenly and back.
that's right.
That's what
That's right.
Megan did too. And now they have this little south 30 miles to the south, back to Heavenly, and then they go over the north
Yeah.
to
Tahoe City
Temple.
and then back.
Yes. So I was very intrigued by that. I basically watched every YouTube video that I could
Mm.
find. And yeah, I threw my name in the hat because in 2019, my cancer also extended to stage 4. So that basically means it spread throughout other parts of my body. And I will never get better. I know that. So that makes me really live not I'm not if I want to do something, I'll do it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say, oh, in 3 years, because I don't know if I'm going to be here in 3 years.
Yeah.
So last year was just like, well, I can do it now, so let's throw my name in there. And I got to the lottery, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I really gotta do this. Yeah, that was a little oops.
Yeah. Well, during this whole time that you've been training and doing all these other ultras and building your distance up and up, have you been going through your monthly chemotherapy treatments through this time?
Yes, all of it,
Oh my
especially the
goodness.
last 4 years.
Yeah.
From 2017 to 2020, I was a few times in what they called back then remission.
Mm-hmm.
Now they call it no evidence of disease, but
Okay.
since it spread, I've been basically mostly every 4 weeks on chemo treatments or radiation or some kind of a treatment. And it really helps that I have a doctor's team. I can't really say they support what I'm doing, 200 milers or
Mm-hmm.
100 miler, but they do support the background in it. Basically, we stopped chemo a month before Tahoe. He sends me to. I was going to a regular nutritionist. I'm going now to a special sports nutritionist every 3 months, so I don't lose too much weight and to learn how to eat for these big races and this heavier training load than when you just
Mm-hmm.
go walking for 3 miles a day.
Yeah.
I really had to learn that because I was losing weight so fast it wasn't funny. And that sounds like a good problem, but in my case it wasn't. So I had to really learn how to eat, how to fuel my runs, how to fuel my training even more. But yeah, when I told him I was going to do my oncologist, when I was going to do a 200 miler, he had to swallow a second yes.
But you had made the comment that when you were starting out, during the walking, that the walking would help you feel better
Yes.
during it. So I'm assuming that this running is continuing to feel good. Is there? I'm ignorant to the intricacies of the experience of chemo, but are you able to? Does the chemotherapy take much time away from cause you to take time away from training?
The first week, basically after chemo, I can't really run, but I do try to at least do something, whatever I can. And I have a treadmill, which is perfect because if I don't feel good or it's not safe for me to go out because I'm very unstable or just sick, I
Mm-hmm.
can go walk 10 minutes on my treadmill. Excuse
Yeah.
me. And sit down again and do another 10 minutes or do a half an hour or whatever I can. I can do at least something. And especially the first year, I had for years a treadmill in my living room. So I could just hop on it, watch TV, and go off of it.
Yeah.
Usually the third or fourth day, if I'm stable, if I'm not unstable, I try to, and it's not 3 feet of snow outside. I try to go out and go outside because I don't like treadmills at all. But
Yeah.
they are a big help. And
And then you are able about a week later, you're able to then get back into the rhythm of your running and
yes,
training for the big
yes.
events.
So I usually try to make my chemo week the down week. You have a training
Mm-hmm.
plan where you basically have a little bit of a down week every 3 or 4 weeks, and I use that as my chemo week. That is basically my down week. I
Okay.
try to build it around that so I don't lose too much training time.
You have to sort of to work your training schedule around. Yeah, that's really powerful. Has it been? How has it been to do all the training over time? Have you found that you've been that increasing the distances has been something that felt like it was a natural progression for you? I mean, obviously, you've spent now several years doing all this training, going from your very first self-created marathon all the way now to signing up for the Tahoe 200 this year. During all this training in your learning, was all the training you're doing self-created? Did you have any outside suggestions or help on how to create your training plans?
No, I did not. I never had a coach.
Oh, okay.
I thought about it sometimes, but medical bills are expensive,
I
and
bet.
I'm not a paid athlete, so that has been out of my range. So I did a lot of research on internet and how other runners do it, and I think I follow a plan that is good put together, not just Google 100-mile plan and oh that's it. I try to go to. I'm using the CTS plans
Mm-hmm.
from Jason Coop, so that's at least is a little bit more thought out, and I adjust the workouts in the program the way they suit me. If I know I can't do it that day because of work, I move it around. I adjusted basically what a coach also would do.
Yeah.
I
Right.
never had a trained coach. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's remarkable that you've your training's be able to do that, and I like and the fact that you're are working around your chemo weeks. I think it probably gives you a little bit of flexibility to then like adjust the training as to how you're feeling and all that. So it's nice and custom for you.
It's also very dangerous because you can adjust it the way you want to. If you, I'm not feeling too good, maybe I shouldn't. You can talk yourself out of things. That's the biggest advantage I think with having a coach would be that you got a little bit more of accountability. Now it's only me, and nobody's going to tell me, "Hey, why didn't you do this?" or maybe you should have, or there's nobody tells me that. So it's just me, and I'm disciplined, but not always to the
Okay.
T. I could definitely be better in that.
Consistency is certainly, I think a lot of people say consistency is the key. Um, so do you have any special tricks to keep yourself consistent with your training when it can be hard and not feel good?
Well, I think what I try to keep in mind is if I don't do it, if I don't go for a day, I skip it. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to be sick today. I'm not going to work. I'm going to pay for it tomorrow because tomorrow I'm going to feel worse. And this whole building up gave me a fitness level that I think in my situation is so beneficial. If I see, I see a lot of people in my situation, and I think that this whole running really, I wouldn't say kept me alive, but definitely kept me in the shape that I'm in now because I still work 4 days a week in a very fast-paced environment. I'm not sitting at a desk all day. I'm on my feet 10 hours a day if I'm working, and I got a lot on my mind, and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of competition at my work. So it's to be able to do that and still function outside of my work and still do this running. I think that the training is I benefited to it.
Yeah, I would imagine so. You had made the comment that you don't think your doctors would say they approve of doing something, especially these events, especially the 200, but they must be happy with how it's affected your,
Oh yes,
your physical health.
yes, definitely. He just thinks I'm taking it a little bit too far.
He's,
At some
I don't think he's wrong. I think we're all taking it a little bit too far.
at some point, there was one doctor on my team who was a street marathon runner himself, and that was very, very nice. You could he gave me some tips, and he gave me some like, hey, have you checked out this website? Have you checked out that person? And send me some links, and that was pretty cool. He's I don't know where he is now, but he left the hospital that I go to, but he was an intern, so I knew he wasn't going to stay there forever. But that was nice for that year and a half that I had him on my team to have that connection.
Hmm.
And I think I have the same oncologist for years and years now. I think he knows by now that if I have my mind set to something, there will be nothing that he's gonna say to change it. And
Yeah.
that's with everything he says. If he wants me to take a pill, he has to explain to me till in detail what it's for, why I need it, why I can't live without it, and because I don't want to take anything. I don't want to take sleep medication. I don't want to take muscle relaxers. I don't want to take antidepressant and none of that stuff, which you can get prescribed in my situation every time I lift my finger. Like I don't sleep good. Oh, here's something to sleep. No, no, no. But I think running, being outside, I have the luxury that I live close by a state park, which is awesome. It has some elevation. It has really nice trails. Just to run there for 3 hours and then just sit there by the lake and just sit there for 5 minutes. That's mentally. There's no antidepressant that can top that.
Yeah, really is one of the greatest drugs is just to be in nature. It's just
Yep.
so beneficial. Okay, so you were in your journey of running. You learned that you had gotten into the Tahoe 200 lottery. So that was an exciting piece of news. And just thinking about the running history that you've done up until now, it sounds like most of the running you've done has been in Pennsylvania or New York, sort of the area that you're in. So Tahoe is a completely different sort of
Yes.
terrain. So, what did you do to start training for Tahoe 200, considering, the what you had in front of you in terms of vert and all of that, and what you had available in your area? Did your training change very much from before? I'm curious if you could take us through what you did once you learned that this was going to be your reality.
Well, I kind of knew already a lot about the Tahoe, at least I thought I did. So elevation was definitely a thing that I focused on. Get at least a couple thousand feet elevation in runs, running up these difficult trails, running down them because that's not always that easy too. The one thing that is hard to train here I live at a what is the 1,500 feet elevation. Yeah, that's nothing compare what it is there. So that was kind of, I gotta take it the way it is. I'm not sure how that's gonna affect me.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my doctor a little bit about it, and there seems to be a medication out there that you can take. But again, he wasn't sure about that either. He said, I don't think we should go that route, and I kind of agree with him. So we didn't do anything basically for that. I didn't train for elevation. I did not have the luxury to go to somewhere 500 miles up on the Adirondacks
Mm-hmm.
to go climb a mountain. I still have to work. I couldn't really take much days off of work because I needed them all to go to Tahoe. So yeah, basically training for the terrain, that was my biggest thing. The elevation, the up and downs, the long runs back to back. I introduced a little bit more, and that's basically the only try to up the volume as much as I could. But at a certain point, I'm not a 100 miler a week runner.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have never been that way. 50, 60 miles is kind of my max. If I go over it, I'm gonna get aches and pains, and I'm too tired. I'm wearing myself out. So that's where I kind of top myself off to not go over 55 miles, especially not weeks at end.
Yeah, right.
How that would play out at Tahoe, I had no idea. Because you see all these wonderful stories on Instagram of people that 120 miles this week. I'm like, oh my God, my IT bands are gonna kill me.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. And not that my IT bands were something that bothered me a lot, but I could not imagine. Besides, I don't have the energy to do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
don't know how they're probably a little bit younger than me too, and a little bit healthier than me, but yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Were you doing any cross training or any strength or anything like that to work together with
Yes,
your running?
yes. I for years I've been I follow a program on internet, and I kind of focused maybe a little bit too much on lower body because in the past I had some IT band issues, not horribly, not injuries, but just bothering. So I try to really adjust that. I try to really adjust some mobility and flexibility and stretching, and that comes perfectly in when I'm not feeling too good, and I can do
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things because I can just do it on my floor or in the basement. I also have a bike that I not too fond of, but it's a nice thing to have. I should use it more than I do, but
Yeah.
yes, and I noticed after Tahoe that I should have probably done a little bit more upper body because that pack on your shoulders and in your on your back after 80 miles was pretty sore.
During any of your training, did you practice with the heavy pack?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah, I like I said, my friend Megan, who did it also in 22, she had a great podcast about it where she went in and out. She also had a podcast with her pacer, and I listened to it I think 8 or 9 times, and also I think your video, and there's a couple of more that I watched more than 3 or 4 times, and every time you find something else, like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. And with the running with the pack is, and I didn't want to stuff all the equipment in there that you need for Tahoe. So what I was doing is just put some ankle weights in there
Oh, smart.
besides with the water, 2 liters of water, or sometimes 3 liters of water total. Put some ankle weights in there so it would weigh at least 10 to 12 pounds, because that's what I figured it would weigh fully loaded. It was a little
Yeah.
bit more, but not that much more. So I did that on long runs at least once or twice a week.
Smart. Were you training with poles?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how I last year I broke my poles. They were the cheap end that I bought years ago. I was basically using it in the snow.
Okay.
I've been using them only for the last 2 years. And when I know I was going to do Tahoe, I'm like, I need some really good poles. So I invested in some good poles, and they've been amazing. I basically don't go out on the trails without them.
Yeah. They're well, especially when you're doing climbing.
Yes.
It's just so helpful. In
Yeah,
fact,
they saved me definitely a few times. I mean, I'm just this past Sunday. I made a flat roll on on a downhill, but sometimes poles can't save you. But a few bruises, and it's all okay. It just
yeah.
happens. I mean, I don't know any trail run that never falls, and I probably fall a little bit more than the average one because of I had chemo last week Friday, and I went on a run Sunday, which
Oh
maybe
gosh.
wasn't the most wisest thing to do, but I just felt like it, and I felt good, and I wanted. So I did 6 miles, and yeah, I made a little tumble, but
But nothing more than a little scuff on your shoes. No bad problems.
no, just a bruise on my arm and a bruise on my
Okay.
knee and a little
Yeah,
skin
okay.
on my knee.
All
That will
right.
do.
All right. Well, then, after all this planning for Tahoe and thinking about it for quite some time, and now if we could think about what it was like when you were starting the event, what was going through your mind when you were standing at the starting line of the Tahoe 200?
It was amazing. It was just amazing. I could not imagine. I mean, I've seen the starting line on the internet so many times, and I could not imagine that me, this average back of the pack runner, was really doing that. That was real. It was just unreal. Yeah, it was totally amazing. Just the whole process, and the I was there a few days before the start. We had an Airbnb like half a mile from Heavenly, the start line. So we went
Nice.
there a few days before to look and see the build up, and yeah, it was quite an adventure.
Did you know anybody else who was running this at Tahoe this year also?
No, not a
Okay.
single person. No. Well, I've seen a few faces that I know from Instagram or something,
Yeah.
but nobody that I knew personally. No.
And then did you have a crew with you?
Yes, I had my husband was there. He was gonna pace me for 1 or 2 sections, and a cousin of him who is a street runner. He
Okay.
basically does 10, 15 Ks, and his girlfriend, when we invited him, he was all over it. He was like, oh yeah, I'm going. That's a lifetime chance. And then he said, well, my girlfriend runs too, so yeah, bring her on. So yeah, that's so I had basically 3 people, and my youngest daughter went with me as crew chief.
Okay.
Her gave her the title of crew chief. So
How special that you would have so many of your family members there to support you and be a part of this adventure.
yeah, that was absolutely awesome. My oldest daughter, I have 2 daughters. My oldest couldn't go because she has a 2-year-old, and a job that didn't provide her, that didn't work for her. But she was definitely involved every second of it, and of course, My youngest daughter kept everybody, made sure everybody on Facebook and Instagram was on, could follow me with
Right.
the link and pictures that I send or videos that I made during the event.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was absolutely very special.
That's wonderful. Why don't you tell us then how it went? Why don't you sort of take us through your Tahoe adventure and was your experience?
And one of the things that I was really scared of was the night running.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 60 miles, you could not have a pacer. So the first night, you were going to have to run me by myself.
Right.
And so a few months before the race in the Facebook group, I found this lady from Louisiana. She was kind of a back of the pack runner, had kind of the same. She had some trouble with pacers backing out. So we said to each other, well, why don't we just team up?
Mm.
And that sounded like a good idea back then. And it absolutely was a good idea. We started off together. We met the day of the race
Okay.
in person. We texted and sent pictures of training for weeks to each other, which was very fun. It was absolutely fun. It was nice to have somebody to do. And basically, at the first aid station, it kind of went downhill because she basically got altitude sickness. And I wasn't really sure what I should do. Should I go on my own? But then I felt bad to leave her behind, and we were going to do this together. And the other selfish me was then I have to go to this night by myself. How am I going to do that? At the second aid station, it was very clear that, or a little bit before that, it was clear that she wasn't going to make it. If halfway the first and the second aid station, I was running up front every time, and then I waited for her to catch up on me. And at a certain point, I took a little wrong turn, and then she never came.
Oh.
And I wasted way too much time waiting then. And at a certain point, I was like, well, whatever happened, we had no cell phone service. I'm like, I gotta go because I'm not gonna make the cutoff at the second aid station if I'm not getting myself in gear right now. So
Yeah.
I ran to the second aid station, made that cutoff with an hour to spare, basically ate, took care of my feet, and right back out. And actually, that was kind of going into the night, and it wasn't half as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be really scared, and there was going to be all kinds of scary noises and animals. And I'm not afraid of a snake or a black bear because we have those here. But mountain lions scared me a little bit, or stories of these big snakes up there. Here they're not so big, but I didn't see nothing. It basically was very peaceful actually. Just running by yourself, and my GPS on my watch and on the Gaia app, they all worked flawless. So I didn't get lost in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere. That was one of the fears. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get lost in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's going to know where I am.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that all didn't happen. It was actually very peaceful, I thought. And then I came back to Heavenly, but by that time I wasted so much time in the beginning. And again, it's not her fault. It is what it is. I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep then at Heavenly. I just didn't have that time left. I just barely had time to eat and change shoes and wash your feet and all that jazz. And then I basically had to go again.
Was
And
it
that was,
nighttime when you were at Heavenly, or was it the next day by that
no,
point?
that was already the next day.
Okay.
I think I came in at 11 o'clock, which was
Okay.
like 5 hours later than my beautiful Excel sheet was
Yeah.
that I made. So carefully prepared. So yeah, that all went up in smoke. The sleeping there. So then I had the pacer with me, which was my husband's cousin's girlfriend, and she was awesome. She was really pushing me, like, oh, we gotta push this so you can sleep a few hours at the next aid station.
Mm.
And, this is a 21-year-old girl that just fresh came off the bench, and I had 65 miles under my belt already. And I'm like, hold on, slow down, slow down. Because she went out like, she was great. But by the time we came to the next aid station, it was nighttime again, and I had half an hour to spare. So again, no luxury of sleeping, and that's where I said, "This is not. I can't." I thought I was caught out on time because the time on the thing said 11 o'clock, and I came in at 11:05. So I fully mentally prepared myself that this
That
was
you
it.
were out.
I'm timed out. It's okay. And then when I came there, they said, "Oh no, you got 25 minutes." I'm like, "No, no." And I think that is kind of a mental flaw because I was so prepared that this was it. I was timed out.
Right.
It's over. I was so tired, and I was so in my head with all these hallucinations of the last couple hours that was blown. I was blown away by that. How that affects you. That I was like, yeah, no, that was a learning lesson for me.
Yeah, well, I can imagine if you had come into that aid station believing that you were already timed out, then in your head you had made the decision. You were just done.
Yes,
So learning
yes.
that you still had some time didn't affect the decision that you had already made. A
No, and
difficult
then
thing to
if
change
they
it.
would have said, "Oh, you got 4 hours," I would have said, "Okay, let's go. Let's sleep for 3 hours." But yeah, that
Right.
wasn't. It's basically was eat something, get some fresh water, go to the bathroom, and go. And it was an
Yeah.
aid station where no crew or pacers, of no crew. You could drop off and pick up pacers. So I was going to pick up the new pacer. He was ready to go. I wasn't,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So that was that Spooner Summit that you
Yes.
were at? Yeah, okay. Mile 88.
On my watch, it was 88. According to them, it was 80. But I noticed
Okay.
that almost every section was a little bit longer than it was in the
That
book.
happens in these
They
races. Yeah.
sneak a few extra miles in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, had you ever experienced hallucinations before in any of your previous running
No,
events? Okay.
no, it was so weird. I mean, I saw the weirdest things. Like at a certain point, I told the girl that was my pacer, like, "There's a naked guy running around." And she looked at me like, and I saw a couple things before, but I didn't want to say anything because he's like, "Oh, she's going loopy."
Yeah.
And it was so real. And she's like, "No, that's in your head." And I'm like, "Next time I see him, I'm gonna take a picture." And a minute later, I see this guy sitting on his knees, a naked guy sitting on his knees in the grass. And I took a picture of it. I'm like, if it's not real, he's not going to be in the picture. And I'm looking at my phone. I'm like,
It's right there.
it's
See?
right there. See that? There's the naked guy. Then you blow up the picture and you walk by it, and it's a big rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what I was noticing. I didn't see anything that wasn't there, but you see a yellow flower bushes, and to me it was three ladies in yellow dresses, that kind of thing. Every tree stump, these tree stumps over there, they rot different than they do here, and I saw all kinds of weird things in them.
Yeah. So many interesting shapes and shadows that you just don't understand how
Yeah,
to deal with them.
and sometimes I just hit my pole against things. Why are you doing that? I said, I'm trying to see if what I see is real or not. Because you start
Yeah.
doubting your own eyes. I'm like, it was really
Sure.
weird. It was fun,
Yeah.
but it was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have had hallucinations in just about every 200 that I've done, but they usually happen a bit later than the first night. For me, it might be the third night that the tiredness really sets in. But I love that you just described a situation of taking a photo of something and then still seeing it in your phone. Because I've had hallucinations happen even after a race where I'm looking at photos from the race and I'm seeing things in those photos on my phone. You know, it's a weird how you can hallucinations don't end just because the race is over. Well, that's quite an interesting experience to be having in your first 200, right before, of course, you come to the DNF at Spooner Summit. So was it? Were you resigned to the DNF then? Were you disappointed when the decision was
It's,
made?
yes and no. I was disappointed that I didn't make it, definitely. On the other hand, I was so blown away by the experience and how beautiful it is over there. I mean, I'm not born in this country, but I did travel to quite some places. But those mountains up there, they're another level. And
Yeah.
the snow, that snow on the top. I mean, I see snow here every winter from November till April. We don't see the grass, so I'm not unfamiliar with snow. But to see that in June on these mountaintops, it's just yeah, it's a different level of beauty. And that little, I don't think you guys had that in their route. There was this little lake. It was between the first and the second aid station. I'm not sure. I forgot what the name was. I saw that on one of the videos on YouTube from somebody who did it in 23, and I saw that same place at that same lake, and the video didn't even do justice to it. How beautiful it was to see that in real, what I only seen on the TV screen. It was, but the whole experience, from the start, when Candace does that countdown, and I really, really, really wanted to meet her because I'm a big fan of her, of what she does as an athlete, and just the whole experience was so amazing. That that was what I took away from it. Like I experienced it, I did it, I didn't finish it, but at that point, yeah, it's too bad I didn't do it, but I didn't finish it, but it was still one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful that these events like this are so grand and so special that you can take away a lifetime of memories just from having experienced just not even half of the actual running portion. But
Yeah,
it's such a special location and all the people you get to meet. I think it's a blessing no matter what happens with regards to the finishing or
yeah,
not the race.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and of course, your history has shown, in your running history, as you've just described it, that you often DNF these races on the first try. So,
Yes,
all it just means is you need to go back next year, and
yes.
you'll be able to get to you'll be finishing for sure.
Well, 2 days after, because we were so close to Heavenly, we went every time back to the finish race when the winners were coming in, and
Oh,
talking to the volunteers up there. You have such a great connection with with all these people, and we were every time walking. Oh, somebody so and so is coming in, or the second women is coming in, and when I started, my husband knew I really hoped I was going to have a chance to meet Candace. And of course, at the start line, that didn't work. And I was an hour into the race, and I get a picture of him, a selfie from him and Candace.
oh my gosh.
And I said to the girl that was running with, like, I'm an hour away, and he's already taking selfies with another woman, my favorite athlete. I'm like, dang. So when we went back, I think it was when the female winners came in. She saw him, and she came up to us, and I had a chance to meet her in person. And of course, we got a little bit of the story. And she's like, "Oh, so you're gonna do it again next year?" I say, I can't really financially do this again because, as you know, those races are very expensive. I don't have to spend all the money for the gear again that I have to have spent this year. But it's the flying there, it's the rental car, it's the housing, the races itself. They're so expensive. So I told her, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's. I wish.
Hmm.
And then she said, well, what you should do is you should come to the Arizona 300 and come and volunteer with us, and I'll give you an entry for Tahoe next year. Okay, you just planted that seed, and we both looked at each other like, hmm. Then we have a little bit time to get financially ready for that. And Arizona, have you been in Arizona? No, I've never been in Arizona. So a couple days later, I emailed her and I said, "Well, if we do that, then I'm probably going to get an entry for 2000, not 25." And she's like, "Yeah, that's usually what." I said, "Well, in my situation, 2 years is a lot. I mean, I don't want to be a negative person, but I don't even know if I'm going to be here in 2 years. Never mind if I can still do this. Maybe I can't do this in 3 months anymore." So thinking 2 years ahead is. I said, would there be any way possible that if I come and volunteer in Arizona, that I would get an entry for next year, Tahoe? And she said, absolutely. So she gave us both an entry for Tahoe. Of course, we have to do our duties in Arizona. So I think you're going to be in Arizona too, right?
Yeah, that's right. I will be there.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled to know that I'll be able to meet you during the Arizona Monster. That's just,
Yeah.
I'm
So
sure.
we're going to be there both for 7 days. And I can't even express how grateful I am to Candace that she did this. And yeah, she was so sweet and so nice and so natural. And I just had no words. I mean, she just and for me it's such to have something that I have to push for, that I have to train for, that I have to show up for, is such a big help. Or what maybe for other people a coach can do, that commitment that I do of doing these. A lot of times it rained, or I don't feel good, I don't want to go today. Well, I got a 200-mile race, I'm going to look like an idiot if I skip any
Yeah,
more training. So that big push is for me very important. So
yeah,
I'm glad I'm gonna have that again, because this time I gotta finish it. And I think it wasn't a physical thing that I couldn't have finished it, because I could have pushed way harder in the beginning. I don't know how that would have worked out later in the race, because I didn't get to experience that. I think I definitely have to work a little bit on the mental side of it, and I definitely have to stick better to the schedule. Not that first aid station where we stayed for an hour instead of the 15 minutes. All these things I learned that ate up so much time, the waiting, that yeah, next time I will do that totally different.
yeah. It's amazing. It's such a blessing to have the opportunity to do the race once, because you learn things
You learn so
in the
much.
doing that you can never could have planned for those sorts of things.
Yeah, there was things. I had my nutrition all planned out. I do great with baby pouches, baby fruits, baby vegetables. I live on these things when I'm running. Well, at Tahoe, that wasn't a very good idea, because they get warm and they're disgusting when they're warm.
And you hadn't had that experience yet.
No, because I always freeze them here at the house, and by the time I eat them, they're like a smoothie, and they're fantastic.
Right.
But not at Tahoe. All these I never thought about that. How
Yeah.
would I know? Those little things yeah, I learned out there.
Is there
And
anything that?
you know a little bit about what to expect, how the race is.
Yeah.
I really fought that elevation, because I did the highest mountain up there, and I really thought that was going to be so difficult, and it really wasn't
Oh wow.
physically. It was hard because it was very exposed, but it wasn't as hard as I imagined it to be. So that's something that gave me a boost of self confidence. Like
Yeah.
I really think I can do this. I mean, we'll see next year, but
Right.
yeah, I really think I should be able to do this.
So I was going to ask if the vertical training that you had done in preparation for Tahoe, had been enough. And it sounds like the climbing, wasn't too hard and the altitude didn't bother you. So,
No.
will you do you think you'll have to change very much in how you train for Tahoe doing it again?
No, I think the basic training that I did was actually pretty good. Like I said, I think I lacked a little bit on strength training. I should do a little bit more on that, especially upper body, because, like I said, my shoulders and my lats were basically the thing that hurt more than my legs did.
Yeah.
So I did learn a little bit where I lacked on that part. But for the rest, I think that especially the climbing and the running downhill, I think I did a pretty good job on that. And I don't think, was it enough? Probably not. I could have done more, definitely. But yeah, I think I would do keep that the same. I think I need to work a little bit on speed.
Well, it's a DNFs are often a frustrating experience because it's not not what you had hoped for when you started the race. But there's I've talked a lot about in some of my other videos and podcast interviews that I feel like we need to destigmatize DNFs as much as we can and still celebrate the accomplishment of showing up to the start, and also celebrating the learning that happened along the way. You learned so much
Yeah.
in this attempt, and then I'm just blown away by your story with Candace, where she's going to help you get back there for next year. That's
Yeah,
just a really
that's
special.
amazing. Yeah,
That's just
like I
wonderful.
said, they just do an. I don't know about the other companies like the Cocodona or something, but this race was so well organized and a well oiled machine, and the volunteers were all on point. The food was great. I mean, I couldn't expect anything better. It
Yeah.
was beyond.
Was this you had attempted a 100 miler in the past, right? Is that what you had
Yes.
said?
Yeah.
And you did not succeed in finishing that one on your first try? So it was 80 miles, 88 miles on your watch. Is that the furthest you had gone?
Yeah. Never,
That's quite
I
a
never
celebration for that.
officially finished a 100 miler. Yeah.
Yeah. How was your recovery once you got back home? After having done 88 miles on your body, it must have been a strain.
Not really. Well, first of all, I was by that time already 6 weeks off of chemo, so physically I felt on top of the mountain,
Hmm.
very a lot of energy. Basically, the days after because we still had the Airbnb, we weren't going home early. We still enjoyed our vacation. We went sightseeing. We even went to a national volcano 3 hours away, climbing up the snow because my daughter really wanted to see that national park. And there was no way we were getting up that snow. There was like 10 feet of snow still up there. We didn't make it, but every day I walked more than 10,000 steps following basically from the day after. And my legs were a little sore the first 2 days. Getting up and down the stairs was a little on the slow side, but I wasn't destroyed. No.
Hmm.
My first attempt of running a few hundred meters was already 2 days after. So I just gotta know how it feels.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
going out for a run. We were just going to the other side of the lake there, because we didn't see that, of course. So we still wanted to see these sites. And when we were walking, I was just running a few hundred meters just to see how it felt. But no, I my first run was this. We came back on Thursday night. Well, actually Friday morning, and Sunday was my first couple mile run. I think I did 5 or 6 miles on that Sunday.
Okay. You're just right back at it.
Not anything wild, but just a little shakeout run
Yeah.
of whatever you want to call it.
So as you're starting to think about the next year of training, will you use races or other long events as some training runs to get ready for Tahoe? Do you have anything planned?
I do have Chicago planned again because
Okay.
I work for McDonald's corporation, so I run for the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, cool.
So this is the second time that I'm doing. I thought the first time was so awesome. I did Boston last year, and I don't know what the hype about Boston is, but totally disliked Boston. I thought it
Okay.
was nothing compared to Chicago. Chicago, the people were so great. I mean, they were handing you out shots and beer, and there was people everywhere. And in Boston, I thought some there was people standing there and they wouldn't even cheer or
What?
nothing. You know, like
Oh
what
wow.
is this? So yeah, I don't think I would ever do Boston again. I never qualified for Boston. That be a thing. I was running for a melanomas organization. So yeah, I definitely wanted to show less because I always talk about how great Chicago was, and he wasn't there. So he just recently a year ago started getting into running. So it's hopefully going to be his first marathon.
Oh, how fun that you'll do that together. That's great.
Yeah. But that's the
Well,
only thing I have planned right now. We might, this past Sunday, we went to a state park where I did my 100K, Green Lake, which is a lake that has really a weird color because of the special minerals in there. And I wanted to show him that lake, and we went there and I talked about the race and I showed him some pictures. And he's like, "Oh, maybe we should do that. I can do the 25K there." So we might end up, that's in September, I think. We might end up doing that. More for
that's
the
cool.
fun than really I want to do this race.
Yeah,
But it's,
right. Sometimes running is fun.
yeah, it's got to be fun.
That's right. Well, I think this has been a really fun experience to listen to your journey and all how all this has happened. I've been sitting here thinking about all this stuff that you're telling us about training for all these races and going to Tahoe and getting to meet Candace, and now you're going to be going to Arizona, and then you're going to go back to Tahoe. I'm just thinking about how all of this is because you got into running. I feel like
Yeah,
um, you
absolutely.
wouldn't be doing any of this had you not gotten in, had you not been walking and to get into and eventually getting into more and more.
If I wouldn't
It's
have
what.
been sick, I would have never been doing this because this is, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would go run a marathon, I was like, yeah, no, not happen. Never in a million years thought I would want to do something like that. I mean, my kids think I'm batshit crazy and they tell me all the time. And if you would have told me I would be doing this, I would have thought the same thing.
Well, I'm glad you are. I mean, it's really quite. It's really inspirational, I think, to people to um, to see regular people doing hard things, but when regular people have even a more difficult challenge associated with it. I mean, yeah, it's just really great to see how you're managing all this together, and yeah, it's such a positive attitude towards it. It's I think is really remarkable and
Well, I
quite a
think that
story.
my illness kind of, I think I always had a very positive attitude, but this makes it even better because my philosophy is, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. It can be a year, it can be 5 years. But any day that I'm going to have those feeling of feeling sorry for myself or why is this happening to me and I feel so sick and all that jazz is a day wasted that I could be enjoying life. I think I enjoy all the little stuff much more than I did 10 years ago. I have a little grandson, which I'm babysitting every week because I really want to, because that's just, I really want to see that kid grow up as much as I can and go out in nature and do these runs and see how beautiful things are and enjoy it. And nobody can predict what's going to happen in 3 months or a year or 5 years. I mean, anybody can be hit by a bus tomorrow. We don't know. So I'm trying not to let my life wasted away of feeling sorry for myself and thinking, oh, I feel so bad today. Well, okay, take an aspirin and let's go. That's kind of trying to be, it doesn't always work that way. It sounds better than it is. Some days are hard, and sometimes when a scan shows some results that you really don't want to see, yeah, that is, it takes me a day or two to process and see the light at the end of the tunnel again and say, okay, we have now this problem. what is going to be the solution, or what can we do to make it better, or what am I going to do about it. And that's kind of what we ultra runners do too. You come up with all these weird problems and you got to figure out a solution,
That's right.
no matter if you want it or not. Otherwise, you can't go on a lot of times. And it's kind of the same with being ill. That it is what it is. Nobody can change it. There's nobody to blame. I try not to waste any days. There can be good days, and as long as I can stay at the physical fitness that I am now, I'm good. I'll stay on chemo for the rest of my life and be good as long as I can stay this way.
Yeah.
I know that's probably not going to be a reality, but for now it works.
Well, that's really powerful.
I think it's sometimes more difficult for the people around me than for myself, for my kids, for my husband. For them, it's. I think it's more difficult for them than it is for me, because they see the difficult times I go through and they can't really do anything, and they worry, and yeah, they can't do nothing about it. They feel very powerless, and I can do something about it till a certain level. So I try not to make it any more difficult for them also than it needs to be. Which sometimes just trying to keep the noise down and not always telling them how I feel, or not always 100% telling them everything. If they don't need to know it, they don't need to know it. So
Well,
yeah,
they must be excited to return to Tahoe next year, be on your crew again.
absolutely. She's planning her vacations around my running events. At work, she tells them, "Well, I have to plan my vacations around my crazy mother who wants to go run in all these places."
Yeah.
She's going to Chicago too again.
Oh, good.
She basically went to every big race that I went to. So
That's really special.
absolutely.
Oh, well, Antonia, thank you so much for joining us on Ultra Origins and sharing your story. And I really do look forward to meeting you next year. I will see you at Arizona Monster. I can't wait
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
meet
We're
you and
gonna
your
be there
husband
for a
Les.
week, so I don't know what we're gonna do. You could fill in what your preferences was. Oh, well, I don't really care. I think it's really cool to see how these races work from behind the scenes, and that's what Candace said too. You're gonna see such a different side of the race, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And I hope I'm gonna see some of the trail. I told her I will do sweeping, or whatever needs to be done. I definitely want to go out and do at least a section to just see how it is out there.
Yeah, sure. You're all the way there. You may as well get to experience it firsthand.
Absolutely. I know. I'm very excited for it. So
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing how everything goes, and I'll see you in then. And yeah, thanks again for coming on. I will see you on the trail. Thanks very much.
thank you for having me. I'll see you in April.
Antonia, thank you for sharing your story of strength with us. I look forward to meeting you this spring at Arizona Monster. If you have recently finished your first ultra, or if you've recently completed a major new distance and would like to share your story here in this series, go to onwardendurance.com and click on Ultra Origins at the top of the page. Thank you for watching. I look forward to sharing more Ultra Origin stories with you.